And welcome back to Electric Bike Mark. On a previous video that we did just recently here, we talked about the banning of e-bikes on trails. So in this video, since we cannot ride on trails or it's moving that direction, what about the danger reality of e-bikes on the road? So let's talk about that in this video. So if you've been following my reports on the Tennessee Senate Bill 1782, you know the walls are closing in. And as of March 11, 2026, the Tennessee House is holding HB 1712 on the clerk's desk. It is a pen stroke away from becoming law. And it's not just a Tennessee thing. From the Pacific Coast to the Jersey Shore, the message from lawmakers is loud and clear. Get off the greenways, get off the trails. But here's the question. No one in the State House of the City Council wants to answer. If we aren't on the trails, where are we? The answer is the road. And today we are doing a deep dive into the dangerous reality of pushing e-bikes into 45-mile-per-hour traffic. We're talking about a massive infrastructure gap that is costing lives, a regulatory nightmare for roadworthy approval, and why the 2026 crackdown is creating a bigger safety crisis than the one it claims to solve. If you value your right to ride, you need to hear this entire report. Let's look at the physics that lawmakers are ignoring. On a greenway or a multi-use path, the speed differential is the enemy. You have a pedestrian walking at 3 miles per hour and a Class 3 e-bike traveling at 28 miles per hour. Lawmakers argue that 25 mile per hour gap is a public health hazard. So they pass bills like the SB 1782 to give cities the power to move that e-bike to the street. I'm going to stop right there for a moment because the problem is nobody, regardless of how fast your bike, nobody at all should be riding 28 miles per hour on a multi-use path or greenway. There's no way. I don't care if it's an e-bike, a traditional bike, or any bike. Nobody should be going that speed, especially when it's a busier trail. But at any time, that's a pretty fast clip to be going at. So they need to slow that down. But that's not just e-bikes. That's all. So, but what happens on the streets? Now the same e-bike rider, often a teenager or a commuter, is traveling at 20 or 28 miles per hour, but the traffic around them is moving at 45, 55, or even 60 miles per hour in suburban areas. We've traded a 25 mile per hour speed gap for a 40 mile per hour speed gap against a 2-ton SUV. Our American roads were not built for this middle ground vehicle. In the U.S., bike lanes are often just a 4-inch strip of white paint on the shoulder of a high-speed road. That is an infrastructure. It's a death trap. When we ban e-bikes from protected greenways, we are effectively telling riders that their safety is secondary to pedestrian comfort. We are forcing people who are enjoying a safe, quiet commute into the literal line of fire of distracted drivers. If e-bikes are now legally road vehicles, the next phase of the crackdown is the equipment standard. We are already seeing the first wave. As of early 2026, California's AB 544 requires e-bikes to have rear red reflectors or lights active at all times, not just at night. But it's going further than just a reflector. By 2027, I predict we will see mandatory road safety approval inspections. If you are forced to ride in a 40 mile per hour zone because you were banned from the trail, will the police start checking for DOT approved tires? Will they require integrated turn signals, high beam headlights, and side view mirrors? Look at the New Jersey 2026 model. By reclassifying e-bikes as motorized bicycles, they've opened the door for mandatory insurance. If you are a motorized participant in traffic, you are no longer a cyclist in the eyes of the law. You are a motorist. This opens the door for yearly safety checks and roadworthy certifications that could cost hundreds of dollars. The very simplicity of the e-bike is being regulated out of existence because the trails are being closed to us. Now let's talk about the manufacturer conflict and the lack of separated lanes. This brings us to the major conflict in the industry. Brands like Trek, Specialized, and Rad Power have spent millions designing bikes that fit into the Class 3 system. But if the 3-class system is being ignored by local bans, what is the point? If a Class 1 bike, which is basically a bicycle with a tiny motor, is banned from a trail, say in Franklin, Tennessee, the manufacturer's entire design philosophy is undermined. We are seeing a move toward geofencing technology. By 2027, some cities are proposing that e-bikes must have software that automatically slows the bike down to 10 miles per hour when it enters a park. But here's the danger. What if that software glitches while you're on the road? What if you are trying to keep up with traffic and your bike thinks you are in the park and cuts your power? The real solution, the one 53% of you in my poll want, is separated infrastructure. We need Class 4 bike lanes. These are lanes with physical barriers like concrete curbs or steel bollards. Without these, the dangerous reality is that one distracted driver on a cell phone can end a rider's life in a second. SB 1782 gives the power to ban, but it doesn't provide a single cent of funding to build protected alternatives. It's a get-out order with nowhere to go plan. Now the question is your state next? Don't think this is just a Tennessee problem. Lawmakers across the country are watching the SB 1782 as a test case. If Tennessee can successfully move e-bikes off the trails without a public outcry, every other state will follow. We are seeing similar language pop up in Florida, where they are discussing 10-mile-per-hour speed caps on multi-use paths. The goal is to move e-bikes into the same legal category as mopeds or 50cc scooters. Why? Because it's easier to tax, license, and regulate a motor vehicle than it is a bicycle. If they can push us off the trails, they can justify every new fee they dream up. The dangerous reality isn't just the cars on the road, it's the slow erosion of the e-bikes as a tool for freedom. We are being funneled into a car-centric system, and we are losing the bike part of e-biking forever. The 2027 infrastructure pivot. Beyond the paint. Let's look at even further ahead to 2027. If the dangerous reality of the road is the problem we face today, what is the planned solution for tomorrow? By 2027, the era of Sharrow's, those useless painted bicycle symbols in the middle of a car lane is officially over. Planners have finally realized they don't work for e-bikes. The rise of Class 4 protected bikeways. By 2027, the new gold standard is the Class 4 separated bikeway. We aren't talking about a bike or about a lane on the asphalt anymore. We're talking about a dedicated roadway. Imagine 2027 physical barriers, concrete jersey walls, steel bollards, and raised curbs that a car cannot accidentally drift over. Major hubs like New York, Boston, and Houston have legally binding benchmarks, complete hundreds of miles of these protected networks by the end of 2027. If we are being pushed off the trails in 2026, these high comfort lanes are exactly what we have to demand by 2027. Bicycle superhighways and regional connectors. We're also seeing the rise of the bicycle superhighway. In states like Colorado and California, 2027 projects are focusing on regional connectors, paved protected paths that run parallel to major highways that are physically separated by 10 to 20 of green feet of green space. The goal for 2027 is simple. Allow an e-bike commuter to travel 15 miles between cities without even sharing a lane with a vehicle. This is the only way to fix the speed gap we've been discussing. The 2027 funding cliff. However, there is a catch. A massive amount of federal funding from the bipartisan infrastructure law is set to expire at the end of 2026. That makes 2027 the make or break year. If your local city hasn't broken ground on these separated lanes by the start of 2027, that money might vanish. This is why the dangerous reality of being pushed to the road is so urgent. If the trails close in 2026 and the infrastructure funding dries up in 2027, e-bike riders will be left in a literal no man's land. We cannot let the ban list be the only thing that gets built. You might be asking, what do I mean by Class 4? Here is what Class 4 means. In the world of urban planning and bicycle infrastructure, Class 4 refers to a separated bikeway, also known as a protected bike lane or cycle track. Unlike standard bike lanes, these are physically protected from motor vehicle traffic. So there we go. I would really like to see this happen in 2027, but I'm afraid we'll see very little, if any, of this. But we need something. We need some sort of protection out there. I think it would do a lot of good. It would get people that are not riding now on a bike, because they'll feel a lot safer than they do now, taking a look out their window and seeing the roadways the way they are today and the traffic and all. It can be a little nerve-wracking for sure, especially when you're that close to cars. You can feel the backdraft as you're riding, for sure, let me tell you. So anyway, we'll see where this goes. I'll keep monitoring it and keep you up to date. Thank you very much for joining me on this video on Electric Bike Mark. And if you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button. If you would like to subscribe to the channel, thank you very much. Just hit that subscribe button. If you want to be notified as to when the next video comes up on the channel, just hit that notification bell. And if you want to leave a comment on this video, I hope you do, or any other videos, let me know your thoughts. Go ahead and leave that in the comments below. Again, thank you for joining me on this video. And until next time, be safe out there and keep your wheels on the road. See you later.